Hey, friends. Thanks for
Hey,
tuning in to The Right Spotlight. And I'm one of the co-hosts, Kellen.
I'm Brian Monahan. Welcome, everybody.
And as Michelle used to say, we are so happy you are here.
Yes, we are. We are so happy.
Oh my gosh, how much fun do we always have more fun during the 1 minute before the show?
Yeah, yeah. We should just record our antics before we go
I
live
know.
and
It's just between you
call
and I.
that the show.
Yeah, call it our show. Oh my gosh. Okay, what number is this?
We're on 19, I believe.
Oh, yes. How cool.
19.
I'm excited. So Brian and I both help authors with their books. Let's put our plug in first this time because I usually forget it.
Yeah. Let's go in order. So I work with people on writing their first book, bringing it to life, helping you through the process and getting it finished. And then I hand you off to the wonderful Kellen and Cards at Wow.
And I
And what
help
do
you market your book, get noticed, create experience boxes, whatever you want to do in your author pursuits. And we're both credible because we both have written books. So here we go.
There we go.
And then who do we want for a sponsor?
Otter.ai.
Okay, this is the third show we've mentioned you.
Yeah, we've mentioned you many times. We're not going to charge you for the other episodes. So
no, but just
they were free.
Yeah, it's a gift. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. This is we're kind of extending our British invasion just because I have so many awesome friends from England that have written books, and David Rogers, he's one of them. Fueled, Fit, and Fired Up. I don't know how long this has been published. It's been over a year. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, so David was one of the first people out of the Team 17. I believe David was in Team
17 and write that book.
Yeah, he was in. So I learned of him. It looks like it's copyright 2021.
2021.
Yeah, so I think it was mid 2021. He'll let us know, but
yeah, and we can find out from that perspective of an author. You know, your book's been out a couple of years, but he's an amazing guy, and I've read this book twice actually, and yeah, I'm so bad at implementing. I'm great at reading, but not so good at implementing. But all in all, he's just an amazing person, friend, author, and let's bring him on right now.
Yeah, let's get it done. Enough of us.
All Hello, right. Friend.
Hello. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Kellen. I'll have to send you $20 in the post or something like that, or wire you some cash for an amazing introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh no, you're just an amazing person. I mean, you're one of the true treasures that I've met from being part of Team 17 and
Thank you.
Book and actually I got to meet you twice now, right? Because I met you in.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
What was the first place I went?
We went to Alnwick. Which is in the northeast of England for Michael Heppel's book launch. And then we saw each other again at Day 17 in London in June last year, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah. So lots of fun.
Well, I consider myself super lucky that Kellen has introduced me to this, UK contingent. And there was no way I would have, I consider you one of my friends now. You're, we're... Yep. And it's just, Kellen was in a class with you. I bought your book. I follow you. It's like, where is that? How in 20 years ago, there's no chance of us being
right?
Together.
Well, I would have never met him 20 years ago either. I mean, so
no, I think
good old internet.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I think in some sort of bizarre quirk of fate, I think what happened 3 years ago globally, I think has created this virtual networking that has allowed the three of us to connect through various different means and with other people across the world, hasn't it? So it's been from that respect, it's been quite an interesting and exciting time.
Absolutely. In fact, that's how Kellen and we met.
Right, that's how we met. We've been lucky enough to see each other a couple of times in person, so I'm very grateful for that. And I got to meet your family, and you got to meet.
I'll have to visit Dave in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
that'd be fantastic. Yeah,
my wife.
Now, where are you located, David?
To Europe, so
Yeah, so I'm in the West Midlands, so I'm about 15 miles outside of Birmingham, England. So yeah, pretty central in the UK. So great to get to all sorts of different meetups that we have across the country. So it's a good place to be.
Nice. So we're let's talk about your book a little bit, because that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So before write that book and all these wonderful classes that Michael Heppel had created for us, did you have the seed that you wanted to write this book, or where did this come from?
So I think it's fair to say I had no intention of writing a book. It had never dawned on me to write a book at all in my life. I wasn't a particularly so from a business aspect, I'm a qualified accountant, so maths and statistics and all that sort of thing has been my strong point. In fact, for those who will be watching, in England particularly, I got a better grade in my GCSEs in French than I did in English. So writing in English wasn't a particularly great thing for me. I probably should have written the book in French. Maybe that might have been a good idea. Yes, indeed. And so what basically happened was, going back to what I touched on earlier, sort of coming up towards the end of 2019. I was in a busy, high profile corporate role, as a lot of us all have been, and I just found that I was just exhausted all the time, and the phrase I use in the book is I was tired of being tired. And I started just looking at my own health and well-being, and I'm quite pleased I did, because fast forward from December 2019 through to March 2020, when certainly the more globally wide sort of lockdown as it was hit us, it was quite an opportune time to be thinking about how I was looking after myself, how I was keeping myself fit mentally, physically, emotionally, looking at what I was eating, how I was exercising, all of those sort of good things. And then as that year sort of progressed, one of my big things is that I just love helping people. And we joined, as you quite rightly said, a sort of a community that sort of people who followed Michael Heppel's work, and we were just helping each other out. And I was sharing what I was doing exercise-wise, what I was cooking as food. And somebody said to me, "Oh, you ought to write a book." And I said, "No, there's no chance of me writing a book." And then, fast forward probably another 6 months after Michael had said to me, "Oh, you ought to join the pop-up group for Write That Book. It'll be a bit of fun. You're always engaged in what we do. I know you've got no intention of writing a book." And within that week, I'd written come up with the title, designed the front cover, written the chapters, and won the opportunity for Michael to actually write the foreword for the book. So at that point, there's no turning back. and the book was published in May 2021. So it's coming up to 3 years old now. Wow. So yeah, it's been the time's just flown by. It's been great. Yeah, but it's been a really enjoyable experience. I'm really pleased that it's people are finding it of use with me just writing about, I suppose, regular stuff for regular people, written by a regular bloke, is the sort of the way I describe the book, because I'm not a qualified nutritionist, medical expert, anything like that. But this is just really writing stuff that I've found has helped me, and hopefully, whether it's one thing or 10 things that come out of the book for people to think about, then great. And if they try something, it doesn't work, it's the same. It was the same for me. There's stuff that I write about that I tried that didn't work for me.
Well, I have actually used the recipes. And anyone who knows me knows that I can't cook for the darn, okay? But they're like, I want to say common folk or bloke people recipes. They're recipes that anybody can use. So I appreciate you for that. And so do all the other people out there that can't cook. So do you want to ask Brian? Because I know I always take your questions.
No, I just, a couple comments on the book. Obviously, one, I think it was very timely coming out of the pandemic. I know people had more time for fitness, but I don't know that we were in the right mindset for it. And I think a lot of people probably kind of like started drinking and to entertain themselves, sitting on the couch. I know my daughter makes fun of me for, Dad, you remember when you ordered pizza like 5 nights a week and we always had ice cream? And then your book showed up and I'm like, I better get my stuff together. So I thought it was the perfect antidote for the times. And so, you know, what I like about it is just, you know, it's very, I guess, practical. You know, you cover a lot of topics from, you know, you dig into things like, you know, like musculoskeletal and different parts of the body, and you know how kind of what was it? Oh, that
There
was
you
me.
Oh,
That was me.
I'm back again.
That was me.
I was going to say, I thought my Wi-Fi had gone again. Then, Brian, I thought we were doing ever so well, and it's
We're just messing with you, David.
Well, that's so. If I have my cursor over your thumbnail and I hit the space bar, it takes you off the screen. I just learned something new.
Let me try that with you.
I'm like, and your book hit it. I mean, I was.
Yeah, well, that says it all, doesn't it? With the book saying that I need to be off screen, there's something funny going on, isn't there?
No, so you know, as you started to put your book together, what inspired you to pull out these different parts of the book?
Yeah, I think it was as you said. There was plenty of time on my hands, and it did really just start about the exercising and the sort of my food options, and then as I started, sort of I suppose learning more from the people that I was sort of part of that sort of 17 pop-up group as it was at the time, and the write that book, you start just delving into things. Oh, you know, somebody might mention, oh, have you thought about how you're sleeping, or you know, how you're hydrating yourself, or you know, how do you build new habits, and what have I learned in the past about doing it? And all of a sudden it became little bit of a research project, as well as it being writing the book itself. And I think that's how it morphed into what sort of the final product was. But interestingly, the one thing I will say is the chapter about eating lots of pizza and ice cream didn't quite make the cut, Brian. So I'm sorry that wasn't able to inspire you, or even take the heat off you with your daughter.
Well, I think that definitely will give you more credibility in this space. If we would have found that chapter, we would have known you're a fraud. So.
I love you, but you'd have been a fraud. So I'm going to say what I like about it is you don't have to read it chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And I have actually done this, right? Like I said, I read it twice. I reread parts like, okay, I'm really lagging in my, habits. I need to start developing better habits. Or, you can just go in and pick a chapter and reread it, reinvigorate your enthusiasm towards this this goal, this lifestyle that you're trying to achieve. So that was one of the things I really liked about it. Did you write the book purposely so that somebody could read any portion of it at any time?
Yeah, I'm really pleased you said that, because that was one of the things that I wanted to do, was that it's a book that you can read from front to back, from back to front, and or dip in, as you quite rightly say, when you just want a little bit of a sort of a kick up the backside, as it were, for something that you want to do a little bit different, and I'm pleased you found it useful in that way, Kellen.
Yeah. And then I
just want to acknowledge. Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost like a little Bible, a nutrition and fitness Bible, almost, that you can go to and open up a section. I really like that as well.
Sorry, well, and then the other thing is you ask questions. I mean, I actually wrote in the book, and I wrote it in hot pink because I wanted to make sure that because I don't write in anything else. Well, I use pencils, but see, like I wrote in hot pink, answer, and they're questions that you need to sit down and not just listen to or watch TV. I mean, you need to sit in quiet and concentrate and really answer the questions truthfully. And I think that is part of the reason that your book can be successful in helping somebody, gain their fitness and get fueled and get fired up. So, some people will use a book as a business card, we've talked about that with some of our other authors.
Yeah.
Has this opened doors for you?
It has, but not probably in this, I suppose, in the traditional business sense. So, alongside, starting my own business, not long after writing the book, I got asked to join the board of directors or non-exec directors, should I say, at a health and wellbeing charity that's based not far from where I live. And that really, for me, that all stemmed from the fact that I'd shown an interest in health and well-being through the book. Whereas the sort of my business is more what I would describe as traditional business coaching and consulting with a little bit of keynote speaking. So it is sort of aimed at making businesses better, probably from I suppose, a workplace well-being point of view, but it's not necessarily linked directly to the book. But it has been interesting how, it's, the book's allowed opportunities like today to come and speak to the two of you, and allowed me to, speak to other people or get involved with things that maybe I wouldn't have done ordinarily if I hadn't written a book. So
okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's one of the powerful aspects of a book is, and I think your topic's even better in the sense that fitness, nutrition applies to everybody, no matter what industry you're in. If you're not healthy, you're not taking care of yourself, you can't be the best at business, you can't be the best as a parent, all of that. So and that way your daughter's not calling you out about how much pizza and ice cream you're eating.
It's all encompassing.
It is. My
turn or your turn?
Your turn, Kellen.
Okay, so I got plenty. Don't worry, I can keep this going all day. A lot of them are the same questions, but I like because sometimes we get like completely different answers, but sometimes we get like the same answer with every author. But I want to know is there something that you wish you'd done differently? Because you like, oh, I wish I'd have known that ahead of time. Because we try to help the people that are watching this show learn lessons from our oopsies.
Yeah, I think for me it was embracing the read, write, edit, repeat philosophy. And what I found was that I just wanted to get everything that I'd sort of written down onto paper, and then came after. So the book, I think, from memory, is around 44,000 words. I ended up writing about 60,000 words in total and stripped it back. But before doing that, I'd probably written about 20,000 words before I even thought about looking and checking and editing. And I think I came at it and just went, oh, this is a lot of stuff to reread and go through. And I think if I'd have done it chapter by chapter, almost, and read a subject, researched a subject, written about it, then edited what I'd written, I think it would have been a not easier process, but it certainly would have been a smoother process. I think, from my point of view, that's certainly what I would do if I was considering writing another book or give advice to somebody who was thinking about writing the first one.
Okay.
No, I think that's interesting. We've heard kind of like both sides of the coin on that from people. Is and I could see, I know one of my challenges when you write something, maybe you take months, you go back to it, and you're like, did I write this? You got to get reacquainted. You got to get reacquainted with it. So I think, I could see the benefit of like, hey, while you're working on chapter 1, editing it so that you can kind of like, you're just in tune with the information. You don't have to like reset yourself to it. So I can see that being very beneficial.
Yeah. I had another one. I just drew a blank.
Well, I have one that's kind of in the same vein. Until you capture it. So was there anything that surprised you in the process of writing the book, about yourself, about the process, anything like that?
I think, to be honest, it sort of goes back on to going back to the original question about had I got any intention to write a book in the first place, which actually, whilst I didn't, I found the process very interesting in the sense that it allowed me to, perhaps research stuff that I hadn't thought about learning before. Actually enjoyed quite the therapeutic process of writing, and that's what I've continued sort of doing since finishing the book. Is that I'm writing regularly, whether it be a LinkedIn newsletter or social media posts or things like that. And I think that was a thing that surprised was that I actually quite enjoyed writing, even though it wasn't perhaps something that I enjoyed when I was younger. So.
Should we talk about marketing?
Absolutely.
Okay, so a lot of people write a book and think, oh, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to sell 1 million books. And it's not going to be hard work at all, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you
exactly.
agree with that?
How far from the truth that is, Kellen.
So I have a 2-part question. Tell me the most challenging part about the marketing and your favorite part, the most fun part about the marketing.
I'll start with the second question first, because
Okay.
I absolutely love speaking to people about the general, not necessarily the book, but the principles about it, and speaking to other people who've gone through similar challenges, and whether they've followed the same sort of routines that I did, or whether they're different routines. I absolutely love that about the book, and that's certainly, going back to your question about opening doors, that certainly helped with that. I think the bit that I struggle with, or probably found the most challenging, is continually having to remember I'd written a book and I needed to promote it. And it's little things like, and now's a perfect time, to be talking to you about health and well-being, and it's all that, new year, new me, New Year's resolutions, trying to help get people trying to get themselves healthy and fitter. And it was, it's little things like, I sort of, 4 weeks before the end of the year, I'm thinking, I better promote my book and suggest that it might be a good idea to buy as a last minute Christmas present for people, and it's just those sorts of things that you sort of get, and certainly, well, I do anyway, you get caught up in, the world of, running your own business or doing other things, and you sort of forget that you've got this book that you've written. And particularly, we were, you were sort of talking about it sort of before I came into the broadcast around, what is it like when you have got a book that is, in my case, nearly 3 years old, and continue, and how do you keep the momentum going? And I think it's quite an interesting challenge that I'm starting to find now.
Luckily, your book is timeless. It's not
it is.
dated.
It really
it's
is.
not. I mean, this stuff works now just as well now as it did 3 years ago.
It's interesting you say that, because I've been watching a lot of and I presume you get the Diary of a CEO podcast in the US. Stephen Bartlett, one of the dragons on the UK version of Dragon's Den, and he speaks to a lot of people around in sort of the health, well-being, and nutritional space. And I think the general principles, I agree, in my book are timeless. But I think it's interesting how my view on what chapter would I suggest is the key one for somebody to read first has changed over time as my knowledge has sort of grown and improved through continuing my own journey. And I think that's quite something that has been very interesting to explore.
So what would have been your chapter that you recommended 3 years ago, and what would be the chapter you recommend today?
So 3 years ago, it would have been probably the chapter about hydration.
Okay.
Now it would be the chapter about sleep. Because I think the more I listen to people who have got a lot more expertise in the space of health and well-being, it always seems to come back to sort of resting and recharging, and when you're tired, you tend to make less good choices, I'll describe it as, whether it be around food, nutrition, exercise, hydration, all of the other things that I talk about. So I think for me, it's that bit about focusing on getting good quality sleep as well as quantity of sleep as well.
Okay.
No, I
would agree with you on that.
Yeah, and just you mentioning it, like hydration is very obvious part of the nutrition, but the sleep, I think people do miss that part of the mix. So,
but then I think tangled in there should be the habits, because you need to create the habits of good sleep. And I think the habits are encompassing of all the tips that are in, of most of the chapters. You need to manage your time and create habits that allow you to do make those good choices, right?
Yeah, and it's about, for me, it's about consistency as well. So once you've got, as you say, once you've been consistent with trying to achieve those habits, you're more likely to land them, and therefore you're more likely to keep them going, and things like that. And it is, and again, I touch on this in the book. It's not about being, perfect and getting, 8 hours of quality sleep every night by going to bed at 10 at night and getting up at 6 without being disturbed at all, because that's very, very rare that sort of thing happens. But it's just about having the consciousness about the decisions that you're making around that, and the impact that not getting those things, whether it be quality sleep, quality hydration, quality nutrition, not exercising, those sort of negative impacts they can have. As long as you're aware of those, then you're making an informed decision about what you want to be doing with your life, I suppose.
I agree. Yep.
I got a question. This is a scenario I wanted to know. I remember when I published my book, Customer Delight 365, and I pretty much kind of like, cringe thinking about one of my clients getting it, because I'm like, they're going to be like, you're not that good at customer service, Brian. Or do you feel any stress about handing this book out? Like, people are going to like judge me at a higher level now that I've shared this information?
No, there is part of me that goes, you sort of, you go to the local sort of supermarket and buy a chocolate bar while you're going around shopping, and you go, well, I hope nobody sees me who's read my book and going, oh, look, this is the bloke who's telling us about good nutrition, and he's eating a chocolate bar at the supermarket. But I think in general, because as I said, I've tried to write it from a point of regularity, in terms of recognizing that actually, that you can't be perfect all of the time. So therefore, actually, me handing it out and going, well, actually, I've tried, some of these things and they didn't work for me, but that hasn't stopped me putting them in the book because they might work for somebody else. So I think that for me sort of made me comfortable with going, take a look at this.
Yeah, so your book's set up in a way that it's not like, hey, this is the only path to health, and it's like, here's ideas for you, here's some different things you can try. So and I think it's, and as I said, I've said a couple of times, is that there are better experts in all the areas that I talk about in the book, that hopefully the book will prompt people, if they want to go and search out those sort of further, I suppose, experts, or or medical opinions, or whatever that might be, about certain elements of it. And and that again is great, because I've had a few, some people have come to me and gone, oh, thanks for your book. Your book's been great for me. It's really made me think differently. And off the back of that, they've gone and either not just changed habits within their life, but they've also gone off and explored other parts of the sort of the health and well-being journey. And that for me is just as big a win as somebody just buying the book and picking up one of the habits or one of the tips. So
I just think, isn't that the best feeling, when you've impacted somebody in such a positive way?
Yeah, it is, and it's still, even again, even nearly 3 years later, when somebody says to me, "Oh, I've just read your book. It's brilliant. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this bit, or that chapter, or I've done this instead." You sort of go, "Oh well, this is really." I'd have been happy, as I always said. If one person that wasn't part of my family had have bought the book, I'd have been happy, and to have people who were buying it and coming back and speaking to people over the pond in the States about it, and all that sort of stuff. It's quite surreal sometimes to think that's the situation I find myself in as a published author.
Very cool.
Yeah, like where we started, what's the chance of some bloke in Ohio and the USA reading something that you put together? I mean,
yeah, it's really strange, because when I first published the book, I remember going, somebody in Scotland's bought my book. So that immediately makes me an international author, because it's a different country to England. And then obviously when you guys were buying it over in the States, and other people within our mutual network have got copies of my book, or somebody out of Write That Book who bought it in Australia or Thailand or somewhere like that, or sent copies over to Scandinavia, and you just go, this is getting a little bit surreal. That
I know, right?
this is the yeah.
When you get an order from Norway, you're like, yeah.
That's it's like, wow, okay, I wasn't expecting that today.
It was so fun. So fun. What's our other question?
That might be a future question, is what's the most interesting place somebody has bought your book from?
Yeah.
I have to look at that more often.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Instagram. I know that you put recipes and pictures of your beautiful. That's actually what got me to cook the recipes, because there was a picture, so I knew what it was supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that?
No, again, it's interesting because I think, Brian, you mentioned it earlier about, at that time when I wrote the book and people were thinking about what they were doing, we had a lot of time on our hands.
Yeah.
So there's part of me where I now go like, well, what is the bit that really I want to keep, which is cooking healthy food. But unfortunately, I don't share as much on Instagram, purely because I just go, actually, this is great food, I'm just going to eat it now. But it was quite right. But again, going back to what I spoke about earlier, that was one of the things about helping people is going, well, actually, it's because we all buy cookbooks and recipe books, don't we? And you look at the pictures and you just go, that's not going to look. What I'm going to do is not going to look like that. So there was a bit of me going, "Oh, actually, this is about as good as I can, I can get it," sort of thing. And it's and so there is an element of, again, making it that, well, it's not going to be picture perfect, as it were, when it comes to what recipes look like when you cook them at home.
I know, but that's just being real,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not looking for the Instagram doctored up photo. I want to know what it's going to look like when I pour it, dump it from the pan to my plate.
You don't want my pictures. Trust me.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Go ahead, Brian. I'm going to get my next one going.
Oh, come on, Kellen.
Well, okay. What's your favorite chapter? Not the one that you think is the most significant. What was your favorite chapter?
I think my favorite chapter is The Power of Three.
Yeah.
Because it's one, it's a theme that runs throughout the book, and two, it's something that I hadn't necessarily recognized was such a huge impact on all of our lives for various different reasons. So whether it be the bits I talk about, whether it be during childhood and some of the stories or adverts that I would have seen as a child over here in the UK, or whether it be some of the learnings that you take later on in life in education, or whether it be the principles that professional speech writers use to help support presidents or prime ministers, write their strap lines. And even during the, pandemic over here in the UK, one of the taglines was hands, face, space. And so it's sort of it's almost ingrained in our philosophy as a way of going, as I describe it in the book, there's a start, there's a middle and an end to it. So it makes it very, our brains are able to process it quite easily because it's a pattern and there's a principle behind it, and that's something that's has continued to resonate with me since I wrote the book, and I've realised that it was resonating with me way before the book, writing the book as well.
Well, you do actually talk about the neuroscience and the psychology of it. So there's like a legitimate reason you do things in three patterns and solving puzzles.
That's it.
That's
it. Yeah, and I think that's probably the finance person in me as well, and it's that sort of problem solving and patterns and things like that. So yeah.
How did it feel to have Michael Heppel write your foreword, by the way?
Amazing. It was, so I've known of Michael's work probably for about nearly 8 years now, after he came to one of my previous employers to deliver some of his his customer service training, and I just followed him ever since. And then obviously, as I said, to have joined what was originally me just getting involved with something that was going to be a bit of fun, to actually get to the end of the week and go, oh yeah, you've won the prize for Michael, to write him to say he's write the forward for my book. It was just like, oh well, okay, that's a big deal. And as I touched on earlier, it's almost at that point you go, well, I can't really say no to writing a book now, because it's because you're never going to get that opportunity again for a Sunday Times best-selling author to be writing the forward for your book.
That was an amazing week. That whole week was just, I looked forward to the challenge every day. And I don't know if you know about that. You want to explain the challenge or the pop-up?
Yes. So it started up as a sort of again, as one of those Facebook pop-up groups for a week, where every day, Michael would jump on live and set us a challenge for the next 24 hours, and it was coming up with a title for the book, coming up with a promise on the back, designing a front cover, writing some words, and but also alongside that, helping support all the other potential authors that were in the group, amongst other things. And that was the bit for me was the engagement and helping people. As I said earlier, I love being able to support people and help them and do that, and that's effectively what allowed me the opportunity for Michael to write the book. And I remember, I think from memory, Kellen, and you might correct me on this, but I'm almost certain that one of your previous guests, Alan, won one of the prizes as well.
Alan won second place. You got first. Alan got second.
Yes. I think Alan won the opportunity to be coached by Michael, I think, from memory. So it was a good week, and like I said, it was that really sort of enthused me. And then, like I say, at the end of the week, you just go, oh, right, okay, I've got something here. There's something I can see and feel and want to take forward, and that's what I did. So yeah,
I mean, it's the perfect writer experience, because you got to write, you got an assignment, you wrote, you had to post it in the group, and then you had all this feedback that was really good. It was amazing feedback. That was actually a life-changing week for me, I'll be honest.
Yeah. And I think what it did as well is, like you say, Kellen, and it allowed us to create a community as well of budding fellow, possible authors and stuff like that. But also it developed friendships and connections that allowed us then to be able to say to people, oh, now I've got my book in sort of a almost ready to publish. Who wants to read one of the chapters to give me some feedback? And all of a sudden you've got 30, 40 people going, oh, I'll read one if you want, or, and actually giving you, really, really honest feedback that, as an individual, you're going to be accepting of, and they're happy to deliver. And I remember that, one of my probably, along with Kellen, and probably one of my closest friends that I got out of that group was a guy called Ian Pilbeam, who wrote a fantastic book about taking his family all around the world, taking his kids out of school and all that sort of stuff. And I remember giving
Did you know that I helped him with the title of that book?
Did you? I thought, yeah. So
but that's kind of the way we all helped each other. And
that's it. And I remember Ian I sent him one of the first chapters, and he said to me, he said, this doesn't sound like it's you who's written it. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I'm reading it and it doesn't sound like you saying those words. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. So then I sort of almost not quite rewrote the whole thing, but then had a really different approach to the way I was writing. And now people have read the book and go, I read it and I can hear you saying, for those that know me really well, I'll say I can hear you saying those words. So that was quite interesting feedback to get. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Well, that's something I actually remember from when I read your book, because I mean, I just kind of knew of you a little bit through Kellen, and I bought the book, and then I was like reading it, and I'm like, I felt like I heard you talking to me. I distinctly remember that.
I read it with your accent.
Never mind. That's
Well,
I'll have to try reading.
That's what I hear, though.
Yeah,
he does have the accent on the front because he's got it spelled, with the double L's for fueled.
That's
so,
yeah.
yeah.
I did consider whether I needed to change all the spelling in the book so for the US version, but unfortunately I just kept it as it was. But yeah,
I think it's perfect.
No, and I have to be honest. I looked at it like multiple times. I'm like, is there a different which way should it be? So, I'm like, have I been spelling this wrong all along here in the US?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's definitive, to be quite honest.
No, I'm not 100% convinced it is either.
I think both ways are actually fine, either.
That's right.
Wherever you are. So
yeah.
Is it my turn?
Sure.
I'm very, like, David, I need to tell you, I'm very leery because I usually jam off with all these questions, and then Brian's like, you took my question. So I just want to make sure.
So you've trained me. You've trained me to just let you roll with it. So
I won't. Okay, we can ask. We've got a few of our final questions.
Yep.
The would you rather sell? What's yours? Would you rather sell? Can you do that one?
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah.
Would you rather sell one book, or I'm sorry, would you rather sell 1,000 books or have one person read your book?
I'd rather have one person read my book.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah, it was never about the selling the books, or as you quite rightly point out, you've got to be very lucky to make a significant amount of money from writing it. But it was all about sharing, and as I said earlier, if it had been one person outside of my family unit that had bought a copy of my book, I'd have been a happy man.
Well, we're not related, so
that's yeah. And if I'd have sold a few in America, that would have been just a dream, Brian. So that dream's come true. So it's yeah.
Okay, so let's talk 3 years later. So do you have any plans? Are you going to be pushing it this year? Do you have any marketing ideas? What is your plan for the book for this year? And two-part. I like these two-part questions. And is there another book down the road?
Right. Again, I'm going to take the second question first.
Fine. There's no order.
Yeah. So a couple of people have said to me, had I thought about writing a young person's version of the book, which I haven't really taken anywhere, but I thought it was quite an interesting sort of idea to maybe explore at some point. And there's also a version, I think, now with my coaching and consultancy and speaking business around being fueled, fit and fired up for business, with some of the, and going back to your point, Brian, about, sort of perhaps there's a few more business ideas in it, but there's an element around the fact that being, sort of healthy from a mental, physical and emotional sort of well-being point of view will make you more productive in life and professional life as well. So there's sort of those two things. But if I'm going to be honest, they're not, for me, it's about being able to find the time to be able to put 100% effort into writing the book. And I think that will be the challenge for this year, is if I do this, where do I find the time? And then in terms of the first question about sort of marketing ideas, I think it goes back to my point from earlier, which is really, December reminded me that I'd written a book. And and it's just about remembering to, this year's about remembering to remind people that these books out here, and and I did a couple of posts sort of between Christmas and New Year about the book, and I probably need to do one, I'm thinking that the usual thing is by the first week of February, most people have given up on the New Year's resolutions. So is that an opportunity to go, actually, if you want to kickstart it again, here's something you could read and give you that kick that you need to get back on track, really, I suppose. And that would be the plan for this year, is trying to remember to push the book, to be honest. Which sounds really strange, I think, because it's But anyway,
I'm going to send you a message every month, remind people. because you need to be healthy. Not just.
So, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and your task is to come up with a theme for every month. That's the first.
Well, it's really, and actually that's just reminded me, Brian, that when I launched the book, what I did was my posts were all around one of the chapters within the book. So it's almost you're going, well, there's there's all these. So just write a post about getting better sleep and put a link in for the book.
Yeah,
or write a post about getting. Yeah, there's
you can easily write a post each month about a chapter.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you just said, isn't it?
yeah. I feel like I'm leaving this chat with some homework now, though. That's the only the only problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're all friends, you know.
That's it. Yeah.
Well,
I'll make sure I'll make sure I tag the two of you in the post that I do as well, so you're aware that I've completed my homework task for the month.
Check. And I'll put a little gold star on your Instagram.
We'll let you. We'll send you quarterly reports. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, this has been so awesome, but this is where we give you a chance to leave some final thoughts to aspiring authors or authors that have had their book 3 years and they should be posting every month. Any kind of message you would like to send to our audience?
Yeah, I think for me, it's for people who are sitting there thinking about writing a book, and I just say, just do it. It's it's a great experience. You might sit there and think that you're good at writing, or it's not really been an inspiration. But I'll tell you now that it does change your life in many different ways. Mm-hmm. And I think for that, you've just got to crack on and do it really. So
I love that. It's so true though too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally worth it.
Okay, well, we're going to put you down in the green room. There's some jelly beans there for you. And then this is my favorite part. We get to talk about the highlights of our discussion.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
He is one of the nicest people. I just love him.
And I'm so lucky. I've got to meet him twice. He's just as nice in person.
Yeah, I have no doubt. It shines through. So,
okay, am I going first or are you going first?
I'll go first. What the heck?
I've only got 2 things, but they're big ones.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, one of the things I liked about his book and what he talked about is it really was just what he was passionate about, what he was, what was in his life. And I think, as other people are considering writing a book, I always say people want to start with their opus magnum or their life's work and say, instead of just kind of like taking a step back and saying, what do I know? What am I passionate about? What am I looking at right now? And he did that. And, now it is an opus magnum. It is something that we can all use and be very functional for our life. So, I think people underestimate the information and, the knowledge that they have. And so, just taking that risk and putting it in a book form is huge. And I applaud him for doing that. And, and just, another one is just the power of a cohort based, writing of a book. And that's something I will be doing in some of my future work as well. But, I always say, like you've heard the phrase, like never eat alone or never do lunch alone. I'm like, it should be, don't write a book alone either.
Exactly.
Always have a team there. And so, I think you guys are very fortunate that you were able to have that setup. And
it was amazing. And that's one of my things. But first thing I'm going to talk about is Michael Heppel taught us read, write, edit, repeat. Read, write, edit, repeat. That is the most valuable information I feel Michael Heppel gave. He gave us a lot of great information, but I mean, and he's right. You have to embrace it. You're not just gonna write your book and be done with it. You need to read, get knowledgeable. You need to write, actually sit down and write, and then you need to edit. I mean, one of my favorite assignments he gave us was we had to write something, and it had to be so many words, like 150 words or something like that. And I had 500 the first time I wrote. And I'm like, and you know what? I got it down to 150, and it was actually pretty good. So excellent advice. Okay. The finding your tribe or your group of people that can support you and help you and give you valid input, someone that can critique it with honesty and integrity. I mean, that is huge. If you can find one person, let alone we had 40, 50 people that were able to do this, you need to find your group of people, your support. I'll call it your support system, for lack of a better word. And then that support system, when you have that, this is my third part. I know I had said I had two, but I have three. But the third part is that they turn into friends and connections that change the trajectory of your life. So those are my highlights of today's talk with David Rogers.
All right. You nailed it. The good stuff there.
I know, right?
That's why I didn't let you go first, because I would have nothing to say.
No, you had stuff. I'm glad I let you go first now. It's take some pressure off of me too.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. We appreciate you watching. If you're watching this live or on the replay, let us know where you're watching from. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. If you have someone that you think would be great on our show, let us know. Contact us.
We failed to mention, we've had David's website, fueledfitandfiredup.com. Go out and get that. You can find about him and his book. So make sure you pick that up as well.
I wanted to see a lot more orders from the U.S. so he can check those off his list. United States. Let's start doing states now instead of just the countries.
Oh, yeah.
And don't forget to subscribe. Please subscribe.
The right spotlight on YouTube. So
thanks, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.